Are you an illustrator trying to break into the industry, but you're feeling overwhelmed by the struggle to find your first clients? Well, you're not alone. And while getting any paid work is a crucial first step, it's just one part of a much bigger journey. In this video, we're going to zoom out and explore how thinking big and thinking beyond your first few clients can help you not only get past that initial hurdle, but set the foundation for a fulfilling long-term career in illustration. So if you're ready to stop feeling stuck and start planning your future, let's dive in. I'm James, an illustration agent, and I help illustrators build their careers. I work with artists who are just starting out, as well as illustrators who have been in the industry for 10, 20, even 30 years. Here's what I've noticed. Everyone, from new illustrators to seasoned professionals, faces fears and insecurities. Imposter syndrome hits us all at every level. But when new artists are too zoomed in on the early hurdles, like finding their first clients, it can block them from thinking big and mapping out a long-term path. Realistically, trying to plan 10 or 20 years into the future is never going to be accurate because you will change over that time. What you want now will probably be different in 5 years. But thinking about possible paths for the future is still a useful exercise because it breaks us out of short-term thinking and helps us to see these early challenges of finding any paid work as simply a small first step. It's not an insurmountable goal or mountain peak that we can't see beyond. It's base camp. Still tough to get there, but there's plenty more excitement and challenges on the other side. So let's start there with the goal of getting to base camp and finding your first paying clients. It's an essential part of the journey that will take a significant amount of effort. Getting those first paid projects is essential to building your confidence and validating your skills and starting to earn a living. So it's completely natural that your focus is just on making that part work and finding anyone who'll give you a chance to prove yourself. But here's the thing, while these first steps are important, they're only the beginning of a much larger adventure. Instead of seeing regular paid freelance work as the ultimate goal, try to reframe it as the first milestone. Yes, it's challenging, and yes, it takes time, but once you start landing projects, you'll not only have that first bit of income, but also the mental bandwidth to start thinking beyond just getting by. When you think of getting steady paid freelance work as step one, you can take the pressure off yourself. Every successful illustrator has been where you are now, facing the same challenges. Getting past this stage will open up the space to start asking bigger questions about your ambitions, the types of clients you'd like to work with, and the projects that are going to inspire you long term. This first phase is the foundation. You're laying the groundwork for everything to come. It's a big deal, but it's definitely not the finish line. Think of it as setting up the building blocks for a career that can continue to evolve. Then once you're there, settled in at base camp, you can use that foundation to reach even higher. So let's imagine you've reached base camp. You've had a lovely cup of tea and you're getting used to the temperature. You're working with some clients and you're beginning to build that foundation. What's the next step on the climb? Well, any important expedition like this is planned very carefully. You plan your route and you need to be fighting fit before you attempt it. You need to assemble all the skills and equipment for the rest of the journey. This is where we start to look ahead and see what the professionals at the peak, at the summit, the illustrators who are already doing the kind of work that inspires you are doing, and try to work out how they got there. Think of them as guides, helping you plot a path towards your own goals. Study their portfolios closely, just like you would study a map before a big climb. Ask yourself, what strengths make their work stand out? Maybe they're amazing at capturing expressions in portrait work, or they have a unique approach to their colour palettes or textures that breathe life into every illustration they make. Maybe it's their conceptual thinking or their dynamic compositions that sets them apart. The skills and features of their work that you admire the most are signals for what you might want to develop next in your own work. And from here, you can create your own path with clear stepping stones. And these stepping stones are the skills that you'll aim to practice, techniques that you want to master, or types of projects that you'll want to seek out to build up your portfolio. Maybe it's focusing on a specific technique like mastering digital painting or developing a signature style that's really suitable for bold advertising campaigns. But these steps don't have to be huge, but each one should move you a little bit closer to the illustrator that you want to become, and they should be specific and give you some solid handholds to grab onto and use to propel yourself forwards, or upwards, I guess. It's a gradual climb, very gradual for me today, but each skill you work on is like moving up to the next ledge. You'll gain experience, grow your portfolio, and most importantly, you'll get closer to the work that you're passionate about. By breaking down your learning into achievable steps, you'll always have a sense of direction and purpose as you make your way up the mountain. Remember, those illustrators that you admire were once at base camp too. They built their skill sets over time and likely followed their own stepping stones to get where they are now. So while it might seem like a huge climb from where you are standing, focusing on these next few steps will make the journey manageable and give it some structure. Here's some action steps to consider. Choose 3 to 5 illustrators that you admire. Review their portfolios and identify the skills or techniques that they excel at. Take note of what you find most compelling. These will become your goals to work towards. Based on your analysis, choose 1 or 2 specific skills to focus on first. For example, if colour work is a standout strength in the work you admire, set a goal to practice with different colour palettes in your next few projects. Set a loose timeline for these first steps, like practice digital portraiture 3 times per week, or experiment with 1 new colour technique each month. Keeping a schedule will help you measure your progress. Develop a personal project that showcases the skills you're working on. If you're drawn to a book cover illustration, for example, create a mock-up book cover. These are the pieces that will eventually help you attract the clients that you want to work with. Every couple of months, reflect on your progress. Ask yourself if you're getting closer to the quality of work that you admire. If needed, add new stepping stones or adjust your focus based on where you're seeing the most improvement or interest. And don't forget to celebrate the small wins along the way. Celebrating those small wins and steps keeps you motivated for the next peak. And if you'd like a few extra tools for your climb, why not rope yourself in by joining my email newsletter? I send out regular-ish tips and guides for illustrators by email too. There's a link in the description. So you've got a clear set of stepping stones for your self-education as a professional illustrator. You can set yourself a schedule to reach those different goals based on how you work. Some people will be able to get through it quite quickly, but others will need a bit more time depending on how they work, the style they work in, and how much time they can dedicate to learning new things. Go as slow as you need to, but try and challenge yourself too. Now it's time to think big and consider where you want to be in 5 or 10 or 20 years. As I said earlier, long-term plans are very likely to change, but you're looking up into the clouds and imagining the mountain peaks that you can't quite see clearly yet. Having a vision of what those peaks might look like, though, will put the early years of your illustration career into a meaningful context. Think of it this way. Right now, your goal might be to illustrate something for a brand that you like, and you've worked out a few stepping stones that will help you get there. That's a fantastic ambition, but let's expand it. If you're dedicated and you work with this goal in mind, you might be able to work with a dream client in a much shorter time frame than you imagine. I've seen it happen. Then what? Well, you've got to dream bigger. Picture yourself in 5 years. You've worked with your dream client, maybe multiple dream clients. That's pretty cool. But that doesn't happen without getting to base camp first, then planning the steps to get there and being consistent in working on those steps. What about in 10 years? By then, your goal could be to have a recognizable personal brand, a style, a portfolio and reputation that clients actively seek out. You don't have to go out chasing clients as much because they come to you for your expertise. Building a personal brand is a worthy long-term goal, whatever field you work in. And the steps could look something like this. You develop your own recognizable, unique style that clients love. When people see the work, they know it's you. You identify a niche that you can excel in. Maybe you can specialize in packaging or book covers or fantasy art for games. Specializing doesn't mean limiting yourself. It simply gives your brand a focus and a specific audience that you can connect with. Throughout your career, you'll be sharing your work on social media and building up a following of fans and supporters who resonate with your work. A portfolio that's inconsistent or unfocused is kind of hard for developing real fans. Some people will like some parts but not the others. But when you specialize on one thing, you find that dedicated core audience who love it all. You'll also build up a network of other illustrators, art directors and other kinds of clients along the way who like what you do. You'll communicate with them regularly, and when you help them out or do good work for them, they'll recommend you to others and hire you when they can. Eventually, you'll get to a point where people start to ask for your advice. You'll become a leader, and beginner artists will look up to you just like you did to your heroes. Offering advice, showing people how to do things and how you got to where you are now will position you as an expert and just add more to your good reputation. None of this will happen overnight, but it could definitely happen in 10 years. And what about 20 years down the line? We have to consider the possibility that you'll get bored of doing client work after a while. Maybe not, if you love what you do. But once you're established as a specialist and an expert, the projects will flow to you and you'll be able to pick and choose the ones that you like the most. But what else could you spend that valuable career capital on? Could you teach others in a more formal sense? Maybe in a university, maybe on YouTube. Maybe you could create your own courses and sell them as your own product. This is not only a separate income stream for you, but a way to give back to the industry and help the new generation get started. Maybe you do coaching and mentoring like the wonderful Martina Flor, who I spoke to on the channel a few months ago. She's recently brought out a book called Making It, which I'm halfway through now, and it's really great. It tells the story of an artist who wants to go freelance, and she seeks out an experienced mentor who guides her into building her dream career. I'll put a link in the description for the book. I really recommend it. Perhaps you won't simply be hired by brands, but you'll be sought out for brand collaborations with dream clients. They want you to help their brand. That would be pretty cool. Maybe you write and illustrate your own book and share your thought leadership in that way. Basically, at this point, you're at the peak of your career, the top of the mountain, and you could simply work on bigger and better client projects at this point, but you'll also have so much more to offer the world at this point in your career, and you can help other people up the mountain. In my opinion, that's the highest possible goal for a career. So let me wrap up here by saying that I realize that when you're at the bottom of this big mountain, it can be hard to see past those first few steps and finding some clients and making some money. But thinking about the big goals and working out what you want for your life can inspire you to keep going and keep climbing. On a personal note, I just want to say thank you for your support. My book, The Illustrator's Guide, is 1 year old this week, and I've received such wonderful feedback on it already. I also reached a milestone that I set for myself with the YouTube channel this week. I set out to make and post a video a week for a whole year, and I've done it. The growth in the channel over the last year with consistent effort has been incredible, and I always love seeing your questions and comments and feedback. So thank you for your support. If you keep watching, I'll keep talking, and if you know anyone who would enjoy this channel, please share it with them or give me a shout out on social media, because I've still got a long way to go. You're the best. I appreciate you. See you next time. Nice.